What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Conversations with Chike Evans and I, Chike Evans. What's going on? I want to thank y'all so much for the support. I want to thank y'all for the likes on YouTube's and the views. Please continue to watch, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. I support all of my supporters. Thank you so much. Today I'm going to be talking to Milik Kashad of Milik Kashad TV. What he does is amazing on his YouTube channel. He's in the room. Once we start talking, I'll get him to explain a little bit more about what he does. And if you're not already a fan of his channel, maybe you go check him out. He's pretty dope. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the room. Thank you for coming in. What's up, Chef Rashawn? What's going on? How's everybody doing today? Everybody cool? Everybody good? I know it's a lot of mess going on in the world, but I want y'all to keep the faith, stay prayed up, and support everyone. Mr. Kashad, what's going on, brother?
Hello, hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Um, one first, before we even get started, I just have to say I'm a huge fan of your channel, and that's the reason that I wanted you here today because you seem to be a geek about music like I am.
Mm.
And you dive into the minutia of things and get down to the nitty gritty, and I so appreciate that. I so
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. I actually just got off work not too long ago, but I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Same here. Just got off work. This is what
Yeah,
happens when you're an artist that does other things.
yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about your background. Like, I've seen that you've been on the internet since you were a teenager, a young teenager. And so I guess that pretty much makes you a vet by now, right?
I think I'm like ancient in the internet age, I would say so. Oh, I would imagine so. But yeah, my background. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, and
Hmm.
the story is so I didn't crawl. I went from like just sitting there, and then when I was 9 months, I started walking. And from the time I could walk, I was dancing. So my initial artist career began in performance. So I danced and I sang,
Hmm.
and that's what I trained in. That's what I studied in, and all of that. And when I was like eh, 14-ish, maybe 15, I got a scholarship to train with the North Carolina School of Ballet. Some people from Alvin Ailey saw me dancing and they were like, "Oh, we want you." But I turned it down. So that was the end of that. And then, like, as far as singing is concerned, I my voice was actually really high, really, really, really high at one point. And then when I was 18, I was 18, I went to bed one day, and then I woke up and I sounded like this, and then I never sang again. So from then on, I went to undergrad at the University of North Carolina, and I got degrees in social work, psychology, and Spanish. And I was dating this dude, and he somehow found out. I do not remember how he found out, but he found out I could dance in like my past career and performance. He was like, "You need to get back into that." I was like, "Nah," because I wasn't moved to do it. But there was somebody else that I had a crush on, and um, well, no, no, no. Yeah, I was a RA, and I had a colleague who gave me a camera, my very, very first camera, and she couldn't do it. And whatever I asked her to do it. So she gave me the camera. She said, "Here, you just click this button and it'll take the picture." And I just fell in love with it.
Hmm.
And so then I had a crush on this other dude, and he asked me if I did video. I had never done a video before, but I said, of course, of course. And so that got me introduced to video. And by this time, I was about to graduate university, and I wasn't ready to go out into the real world. And so I ended up pursuing a degree, a master's in film to just, get to do some years and that training and how to tell a story and how to do all of these other things. And then so from then on, once I graduated, I was like, okay, well, I still love performance, I still love music, I still love all of these things, but how can I tell these stories in this new medium that I enjoy?
Hmm.
Um, because it's just like me personally, it is through music and everything that I'm able to understand and comprehend the world around me. And so I was like, okay, if I can tell stories through the lens of music, that's perfect. And so I couldn't really find a job. When I graduated from grad school, they don't professors aren't always upfront about how difficult it is to get a career in the arts after the fact. So that is when I used YouTube as a medium to like the voice stuff or to do everything. And if you notice, it's not really just solely focused on the voice. It's like a holistic approach to social, the cultural, the
Hmm.
political, all of those things. And so I used the voice or music as a lens to tell honestly larger stories. So and now we're here.
Yeah. What I think is so dope is that you're a historian. You're a historian of music, and you're basically cataloging things as you see them with education. And the part that I'm attracted to so much is, like I said, you dive into the minutia and you actually educate and you explain things that a layman person wouldn't understand if they don't understand music. And you spell it out in plain speak, and anyone can absorb it. And I want to know what is the driving force behind you having that particular style of storytelling?
Um, so where I'm from, I'm in North Carolina, Charlotte. My particular cohort was we were one of, if not the last group to have art arts
Mm,
in our schools because they cut it because of budget.
yeah.
And so it was that was my exposure to like a lot of the music that you see, like how I'm able to make the connections to the past and to the present and all of that.
Hmm.
But also when I was learning how to sing, a lot of it was them. Like they would be like, no, do this, do that. I would get touched, and I know that doesn't sound right, but they didn't use like the academic jargon. It was a lot of moving. It was a lot of, explaining sensations or
Yeah.
feelings. And so, like, um, when I hear people sing, I can like feel like if I listen to like Aretha Franklin or Patti LaBelle, or if I listen to anyone really, I can feel what's happening, and I couldn't necessarily put the verbiage or the jargon onto it. And so that was when I reached out to like some colleagues. I was like, okay, so this is what I hear, and this is what I feel, and this is so can you help me explain this? And so that's how that worked. So they brought in like the academic type stuff, and yeah. And so because also another driving force for me outside of that piece was that like this information at one point in time was available just to the public, like in the
Hmm.
40s and 50s, and under certain administrations and arts programs, you could go to your local church, you could go to your local rec center and get access to this information. And I feel like at one time it was for the people and it needs to be back to the people, and especially since in this day and age that we're in, a lot of people don't want to read, or a lot of people don't have the tools to read, or a lot of people don't have the tools to go to college, you know, or like, people don't understand that researching is a skill that you learn, And so it's in my own way trying to fill in the gap left by just the removal of music education, not just in schools, but just in
Right.
our everyday lives, especially now, because there was article, I think, like that I read sometime last year. And people's number one search engine is actually video. So they go to TikTok first, they go to YouTube first, they go to Instagram first. They don't Google, they don't look at books or articles or periodicals, they go to videos. And so
Right.
I'm just trying to do it in that medium,
Mhm.
since that's what people want.
So, how do you go about getting the guests for your show? Because you get some pretty legendary heavy hitter people to come on your show.
Like who?
Like the professional opera singers, the
Oh,
background singers. These people are. Let me be clear.
uh-huh.
I know what it takes to book guests, right? But my guests normally are singularly, and it's like you and what you do. You're picking these people that are actively in the arts, that have worked for top talent, who are very skilled in what they do, and you
Uh-huh.
have a very unique knack for picking out specific talent for your subject matter. Tell me how you go about booking your guests.
How do I book my guest? I mean, oh, okay, so for like the classical singers, I just asked him. That's the best way I can describe it. I just asked. But I guess like a proper answer would be like the voice explained series. So there's a point. The goal was always for it to look like how it was now, so where it's not just my voice narrating it.
Hmm.
But I was working with somebody for a couple of years named Matt, and he is a voice expert, and he was able to like give me the foundation and all of these other things, and because it was so different at the time and so, I guess, innovative, if that's the word we're going to use, it resonated within a certain community, and then like singers started following me, and then all of these things started following me because apparently not only was I saying was different from like regular YouTube jargon, but also the presentation, as you mentioned, was in a way that was palpable. Some people say, "Oh, I just watch these just to watch them." That's like a documentary. I don't even understand music. It's just interesting. And so people caught on. And so eventually, I guess over the past few years, I've garnered like I guess a reputation or a certain level of trust among artists, or and so that I'm able to just ask them like, hey, can you come on and explain this as opposed to me? And it feeds back into the overarching goal is get the
Hmm.
professor, the educator, these teachers to teach as if they were like in a class or in a classroom setting or whatever.
Right.
But as far as like the performances and master classes that I do, I had a friend tell me one time, he said, you were good for plucking these girls out of the middle of nowhere, throwing a wig on them and telling them you're about to sing. And that's sort of kind of how it works. And so for example, like Leona Mitchell,
Uh-huh.
the opera singer, I couldn't find her for the life of me. And then like I was like, okay, well, she's not using Leona Mitchell, then I remember she was married for over 40 years. So I found out about her maiden name. I mean, about her married name, because Mitchell
Hmm.
is her maiden name.
Yeah.
And so, but she wouldn't reply to me. And then I remembered I know a friend of hers who's a composer who can get me in contact. So I said, boom, boom, can you connect me to her? I want to do this, blah, 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 blah. And so that's how I made that connection. But it's really just like, it's like, yeah, I legit just find them, be like, uh, where there's a lot of them have Facebook. It might not be under their name, but you can find them, like
Yeah.
it's really just searching Facebook or whatever. And then you just ask them. And then I've been fortunate that the majority of them have said yes, and not to say that these are like, um, forgotten people. I don't think that's the appropriate word, but a common response that I've often gotten is, oh, wow, you know who I am? I guess because it is the 30, 40 something year age gap. Like, oh, you know who I am? And because, I am young and interested in them, that also makes them more inclined to say yes outside of the quality of the work.
Yeah. That's dope. Are you familiar with Jaron LeGrare? Do you know who that is?
I know exactly who he is. He just got promoted to a full-time faculty member at Oberlin today. I saw. Yeah,
Very impressive.
congratulations to him.
Very impressive. Yes. So you two together will rule the world when it comes to this because he is such a professor with the technique
Hmm.
and you're a professor in the description. Not that his description is less than yours, but together it's like a well-rounded picture. And I would love to see you two collaborate on something. This is my fan wish thing. I just would love to hear you two get together and collaborate on something.
Yeah,
Because
a lot of people have said that.
yeah.
A lot of people have said that. I actually am trying to, in a way, model, some of the things because he's gotten some of the things that I want, and I don't think
Hmm.
that's a bad thing to say. He has some things that I want.
No, 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 no.
He's gotten sponsored posts. He's done collaborations with various
Hmm.
people, with like various brands. I've never gotten like any of that. So every video that you see, I pay for it myself. Every production, like the Shaka Khan's singers thing, that came out of my pocket. That job that I just left to come here, paid for that. And I just was like, okay, what is he doing that I'm not doing so I
Hmm.
can get similar results and grow in a way that he has grown.
Right.
And so that's why I'm trying to get in front of the camera more. It's hard, but I'm trying. But I see that's one of the things that he's done. And
Yeah.
that's what he's like, him. Everybody knows his face. Everybody knows him. As opposed with me, a lot of people know my voice. They don't
Yeah.
even still don't associate me with my voice, even though people sometimes still think my voice is fake. But I'm talking to you. So yeah, but we've actually talked about it. It's really just figuring out what it is, and I think Oberlin is in Philadelphia. So he's right down the he's I'm in New York, so he's literally a train ride away. So it can definitely happen, and I'm open to it.
Okay. Okay. Tell me what goes into your filmmaking because I think you're an awesome documentarian. Like I
Um,
would love to see you come out with like a film like on Amazon or Netflix or something like that, big budget. I want somebody to throw some money behind you.
so what goes into my filmmaking? Um, I take a lot of inspiration from like uh the EPKs of like the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So one thing I used to always love is like, I mean, granted, I wasn't alive for a lot of my, thanks to YouTube, I knew they existed. But
Mhm.
like they would, when an artist would release an album, they would do like a 10 to 15 documentary about the album and the process of creating the album, what that
I
album
miss
means
that.
to them. And I took a lot of I just always love that. And
Mhm.
so it's like that uh process is what I'm obsessed with. The final product is nice, but it's like how do people come together to make that music? And so that is the inspiration for essentially all the work that I do, the process. And then the second layer is again connecting the younger artist to the older, more established artist, and again documenting that exchange because a lot of the legacy artists, they've never been asked necessarily how do you do what you do? How did you
Mhm.
learn, to do that? And a lot of them, like with the Shaka situation, they uh they were all three of them to the young talent Darian. They were like explaining the same things, but they all explained it different ways because they didn't know how to necessarily um convey what it is that we're doing. I mean, they eventually got there, but it's yeah, I mean, I guess, shoot, I forgot my answer. But yeah, it's the process and just trying to, again, put the younger artists in the room with the legacy artists for that exchange of ideas and information. And so then that way, when you, the viewer, are watching, So, for example, in the Shaka Khan documentary with the singers, there was always one empty chair in the shot if you watch it, and it's so for someone like you who's watching, you can see it and you'll be like, "Oh, okay, that chair's for me," and then you'll sing along because you're like involved in the process. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love
Mhm.
that. Love that. What, what's your favorite part about it? Be more specific, because I know you said you like the creation of it. What part about it makes your adrenaline run? Is it the research part? Because it seems like you love to do the research.
I love to do the research. I love to do the research. I love I love the research. Um, because it's like especially with social media, um, a lot of stories I would say are like in a way fabricated. you
Mm,
know they aren't completely true. Even some of these artists that we love, these legendary artists, if you ask them the event a question about an event per se, their answer today is not going to be the same answer that they gave you know 30 years ago. So I for example, I can think of a couple singers, for example, one singer with Whitney Houston. She said, "Oh, we were great friends. She was so kind to me. I was honored when she sang my song, when she covered my song." And it's like, "Oh, really? You know, that's not what you said back in the spring of 94." You know what I'm saying? And then I've seen that with different artists over time, how what they say about, say, rap music today is not what they said back then, or
yeah.
and it's just interesting. And that's not to like sit call them liars, because we change every day. But it's
Hmm.
interesting to just see that, like, oh, this is how they felt about this, and then some things happen that caused them to change, or oh, okay, so these things happen. And it, in my opinion, gives you a better understanding why some careers end up the way that they do.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, and why some music sounds the way that it does, or why some they made certain decisions. So I would say that's my favorite part. And then I would say that part, and maybe the final product, not because it's like the end, but it's just like when these artists walk into these rooms, these artists who people feel like, oh, they've people forgot about me, or, I didn't know that people cared about, really paid that much attention to my work. And then you see this full crowded room of people that are here for you. It warms my heart, because it's just like at the end of the day, as artists, you just want to know that your work touched somebody, that it meant something, that this thing that was so passionate for you and that you gave
Hmm.
your life to touch
Yeah.
somebody. And so I think that feeling, you know, of seeing these artists be touched, and in a way, I guess, get their flowers, is something that that's the thing that keeps me motivated and inspired. So the research and the that part of them walking into that room and seeing a whole bunch of people there for them.
Who are some of the artists that inspire you? Like like who gets your heart pumping?
Um, Aretha Franklin is my favorite of all time. I love her. I just love
Hmm.
that woman. Um, I would say uh, any yeah. I would, if I no particular order. I'm just thinking about my introduction into Divadom. I would say it would be like Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, Janis Joplin, and like
Mm.
Jennifer Holiday. And I think oh, and Chaka Khan, of course. And I mean that in the sense of like, so I grew up Baptist. My family owns a church, or we founded a church rather, in Charlotte. It's been around for like 85 years. So it's a family church. It's pretty big. But I was there multiple times a week, and we had to be very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. And so what attracted me to divas is the fact that, like, the first one of the earliest sounds I remember hearing was Tina Turner's "Fool in Love." Like you know that part where she goes, "Hey, hey, 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 hey." You know, I was like, how can she do that? Like, why would you go out and make that much noise in front of all these people and not be ashamed? I couldn't wrap my mind around somebody going out in public and just being loud, you know, just being making these huge sounds.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I didn't want to sing in that way. I just wanted that fearlessness, you
Right.
know, and not saying that these women, I mean, of course, we know about these women's personal lives, but who they were on stage, that fearlessness, that abandon, that is a trait that I've always wanted for myself.
Gotcha.
And I still don't really have it, but that's something I've wanted for myself. And that is another thing that just, you know, keeps me going and like really moves me because like these women who I reach out to, I remember I told Sandra, she's in the Shaka film. I said, you know, I've always wanted to live my life, how y'all saying, just fearless and without abandon. And so that is why, you know, I'm trying to tell as many of their stories because, you know, it's it takes a certain level of honesty and vulnerability, you know, with yourself to be able to do what they do. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I think artistically you're doing that though. Like and you're literally using their voices to sing your song. You're putting the voices out there for you to speak for you. And you're highlighting them because that's what inspires you. So technically you're doing it.
Yeah. And that's what somebody told me. Somebody
Hmm.
told me that. And I'm starting to see it. And I'm starting to see it. You know, because people say, you know, your work inspires me. You know, I've gotten emails from all over the world about people asking me, hey, I'm working on a dissertation. Can you help me about this? And so, and the way that their voice is touching me, you know, my work, I guess, in some form or fashion,
Hmm.
is is being received and touching other people.
Someone asked, what is your research process?
What is my research process?
Hmm.
My research process. For like if I'm doing an explained episode.
For my interest, yeah, I'm going to say yeah to that one because I
Okay,
love those.
so if I'm doing an explained episode, it depends. So I can't treat everybody the same. You know, some careers, you know, different trajectories, available material. But the process, I usually start out, you know, first I gotta be interested in the person, you know, like
Hmm.
and it can literally happen at any point in time. I can and so once that happens, I just begin to like look up their career or oh no, let me start over. First I gotta be interested. So from the if I'm doing an explained episode, I go through all their albums. I go through their
Hmm.
entire discography. And then like from that point I make note of like if it's for the voice analysis part, okay, what shifts do I hear in their range? What is that indicator? What things do they do to approach certain notes? Or how is their music arranged? You know, okay, so if their music is arranged this way, okay, so what is the best note in their throat or blah blah blah. So that's that part.
Hmm.
But then once you start to hear like changes and the tone. Okay, so say for example, with Whitney, first album comes out at 21, second albums, I believe she's like 25, 26. There's a change, there's a shift. So what happens? You know, so you line all of those things up. So okay, what else was happening in her life at this time for these things to happen? Because the shift
Hmm.
happened maybe a little earlier than some people would say. And so then you just start connecting all of these dots and then you just you know piece everything together. Um, you piece everything together. Because you know, I would say that artists back then were actually a lot more transparent, like when they were speaking to the newspaper for whatever reason. And
Hmm.
so you could generally find what it is that you're looking for. about like why something happened, and they'll
Hmm.
tell you why. And so that's the process, I guess. And so once I have all of those notes together, um, then I like try to structure it in the form of a story, so that way
Yeah,
it doesn't seem just like a voice lesson or something, but I put it together in a story and figure out the way to just weave it all together.
yeah. I particularly liked the one you did on Tony Braxton because I learned a lot. It explained a lot for me as it relates to her career and her voice,
Hmm.
the changes in her voice, um, the illness and how it affected her voice, and
Hmm.
just how she was able to work or not work. It explained a whole lot, and I appreciate you doing the research and doing things of that nature, just simply because of us geeks, we like to know stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, and that's why, like, and a lot of my research is done with primary sources. So, like,
Mhm.
I have a membership to a newspaper and magazine archive. So that way I'm reading from exactly the time periods to craft the stories. And so, like, when
Gotcha.
I realized, I was like, oh, I didn't know everybody was saying she was a lesbian, because that's a part of her story that nobody really talks about today. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, so that second album was sort of kind of positioned in response to the rumors.
Hmm.
Oh, and I thought that was interesting because when I'm doing these things, I also end up learning more and more about these artists and how they felt about their career. Like I know Dionne Warwick said, and she was telling magazines in 1969. She said, and I quote, "I will never be a Barbara Streisand, and that's hurtful to me."
Mm.
And so it's just like, oh, you just understand everybody, and so that's why I try to do a holistic approach instead of just the regular pedagogical approach.
Is there a well, you said Aretha Franklin is your favorite artist. Is there a favorite artist that you've done research for that maybe you found out things that you didn't know that impressed you? Like you were really like in the throes of it with your research.
I'm actually re-researching Aretha Franklin. Because I have like two more. So I have to I redid a lot of episodes because everybody likes to talk smack about me redoing things, but I find one, it took me 5 years to perfect the formula that I do it. But now again, like you mentioned, I have the singers on, so that's less work for me, and I feel like they're more credible, and
Hmm.
I prefer for them to do it. But I would say like one of the most things I found out was actually, and it was June of 1970, I found an article about Aretha Franklin having a nervous breakdown on stage,
Mm,
you know? And so I
mm,
was like, I didn't know that. And I know so much about that woman, but I found it and it was just hidden. I found that. And something else, I'm working on a Rochelle Farrell episode, and I found out that she went missing in 1996. She just disappeared. And apparently, I think they found her in New Mexico just living, but you know, people have said what they said about, mental health as it pertains to her, but I was just like, oh, it's something she struggled with her entire career. And
mm.
like the ups and the downs are documented. And so I was like, oh, so those are different things, uh, that I learned, and or just the simple fact of like Shaka Khan, she hated being called an R&B and soul singer. She said, "We sing rock music. We want to be recognized for the music we make." And
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm just always learning because I've recently acquired that archive within like the past year and a half, one to
Okay.
2 years. So that's another reason why the episodes are even more cultural and biographical in nature because I've gotten access to that archive of information.
Very nice. I'd like to throw some hats, some names in the hat. Um, Angela Bofill. I would love
Yes,
to
I
hear
like.
more about her.
Yeah, I
And
like.
my favorite, Faith Evans. I would love to hear something about her.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot of Phoebe Snow. It's another woman who really sings. She doesn't get a
Hmm.
lot of recognition.
I like
Uh,
Phoebe. I like her first album, and it's an album where she's sitting crisscross on the cover. It has "Drink Up the Melody, Bite the Dust Blues" on it, but I cannot.
I can
I
see it,
can.
but I don't know the name of
Yeah,
it.
I can see the cover. I think she's. I even think she's wearing like a red like shirt. I can see the cover. I just don't remember
Yeah.
the album. Yeah.
What kind of feedback are you getting from like your followers and supporters? What are you hearing from them?
Um. Generally, the reception is, I would say, positive. A lot of it's like, if I look on the back end of YouTube, my I don't generally have below like a 97, 98% rating on my
Okay.
videos. I think um some feedback that I've gotten is of course um
Mm,
more men. The issue with that is like, well, some of my favorite men, there isn't much footage. There isn't much footage. Like David Ruffin, the footage is very limited.
yeah.
Um, but also people say more men, but they don't watch it once I put them out there. Like the women always outperform the men, but I guess it's easier to, I guess, argue over women in the music
Yeah.
space. I
But you
don't
know
know.
the diva is sensationalized. You know, everybody likes a diva.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I would say like the other pushback I would say normally is about, the biggest pushback if it's going to be negative would be like if it's a woman, about what type of voice she is, whether she's a soprano, mezzo, contralto, somewhere in
Yeah.
between. And I've now, like, my approach isn't to just say that. I don't really include that. I just say this is where the music sits. Leave it up to you,
Yeah.
because I for with like Mariah Carey, for example, um, she has always said, her voice is low and that, everything is just a facade. That's what she's even said, even when she debuted. And I said, I quoted her or whatever, but I had her fans calling me some very heinous and racist things. I still have the messages because I said, oh, I don't, because she doesn't say she's a soprano, and I don't think she is, and the music says she's not, but I was called very racist things. And so that's what I was like, that ain't important. We don't have to do that. And the other thing is this idea that everybody deserves like this 45, 63 hour special. Like everybody thinks I
Yeah.
can like do, because the Whitney episode was 3 hours,
Mm,
and people think I can just do that for everybody. I cannot, and I can't. And I think like sometimes I would say one of the more hurtful, I have to do better about managing or change how or reframe it, is like when I post a video and a lot of the comments that I see, it seems like nobody's actually sat with the work. It's just oh, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. It's just a list
yeah.
of 10 people. I'm like, okay, well, one, I got to research it. Two, I got to listen to all of that. Three, I gotta put it together. Four, I gotta pay the professionals to come on and discuss it. Like it's a whole bunch of work that goes in that people don't realize, and it's just like what I've had to accept is like, if you watch an episode, I don't know how people watch it. I know like when I watch things, if you watch it or you see it as a book, what you take from the Whitney episode, you could apply it to say some other artists, or and vice versa. So I don't have to do all these episodes. But people don't watch it that way. People don't watch it that way, and I think what I'm starting to understand is that like all the request isn't a dismissal of the work necessarily.
Right.
It is like a request of, oh my God, this is good. We want more. We want more. We want
Hmm.
more. And that's what I'm working on understanding.
Yeah. Your program is something that I was longing for back in the days of when MTV and VH1 had their heyday when they really dabbled in music. when they were
Mm-hmm.
really focused on music. Uh, One of the shows that I really used to love was Behind the Music. And not so much for the sensational stuff, but for the process of making music, the process
Mm-hmm.
of putting an album together, the process of picking a band, why you have the band members, why you have those background singers,
Mm-hmm.
why background singers leave, why background singers stay, why some go solo. You know, I want to know all those things because all those things are educational in the sense of what we appreciate as fans. And your average fan may not put all that stuff together and understand what that means to like the sound of someone. You know, the fact that Luther Vandross had Lisa Fisher in his background for most of her whole career was because she was an intricate part of his sound and what he sounded like because she was an anchor and
Yeah.
she loved to be there. When I found out that he had to force her to do a solo album because she really didn't want to do it, and she did it and won the Grammy. Like, go
Mm-hmm.
figure. But stuff like that, I like to know stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
and I would
important
say
to me.
like a big part of my work is to be like a antithesis. I think that's the appropriate word to like unsung. And then, looking back, I used to at one point really love unsung,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I found that unsung focused on, yeah, the sensationalism, the drug use, or like, the flops, or it was actually never really focused and centered on the music. And the
Yeah,
more I've researched and the more I've grown as an artist and documentarian, all that, I realized that. But I'm not going to talk down on it because that inspired me to like tell music stories.
yeah,
But and that's another reason why I formulate the episodes in the way that I do, because even in Tony Braxton's Behind the Music on VH1, she doesn't say anything about like the gay rumors and then the how that impacted how she approached the second album and all of that,
hmm,
so it's like these things are all important because they happened, and if somebody isn't there to tell stories as they happened, when they happened, we lose them because as we see, a lot of people aren't willing to do the research.
yeah, yeah. Do you have a journalist or a documentarian that you look up to?
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
I've always just liked the medium. I probably should have some that I look up to, but I just like the medium of like a not so stylized in the room as it's happening. So like I love Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace doc. It's not stylized in any way, shape, or form. It's just shaky camera, handheld, on all of
Hmm.
those things. Yeah. So I have styles that I like. I have aesthetics that I like, but not necessarily a particular singular artist.
I've had a wish. I've had it since I was a kid. I want to see a film of the creation of an album from soup to nuts.
Really?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I know what it's like because I know artists and I've been in the room with people.
Hmm.
I know some of the process, but I think that if your average person knew what it took to put an entire project together, their respect and their appreciation for the craft and the art would be totally different.
That's interesting. Because it's just like, I agree. I
So
agree.
if you think about your average artist, right, and
Hmm.
what it takes to make one song and how they arrive at the one song,
Hmm.
how many hands that one song may touch before it gets to that artist, or even, for example, a small story was "Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night" was meant for Anita Baker. Babyface wanted her to do it desperately, and she turned it
Hmm.
down. Tony Braxton was the one singing on the demo. That's the voice Anita Baker heard when she received the song. And she
Yeah.
basically told Babyface, why don't you have that little girl sing it that's singing the song? She sounds nice. And that's
Hmm.
how we got Tony Braxton.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would love like more of that. I want more of that.
Oh
But I
yeah.
want camera in the room. I want I want the band rehearsing, trying to get the rhythm right, how they actually put it together, how many takes it takes for you to get that thing that we hear when it comes off of the speaker in the finalized version. Because I found that some songs in the rough cut, I like the rough cut better than what was put out.
Yeah, I've had that experience a few times. I'm trying to think
Mm-hmm.
how that would be. I don't know how that would be done though. Because I know like for example, say like It's Raining Men, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Aretha Franklin passed on it, Barbara Streisand passed on it, Cher passed on it, Patti LaBelle passed on it. All the girls were passing on it, and a few more. I think Bette Midler even passed on it. So how do you track that before it gets to Martha Wash and Izora Rose? That's interesting. I never thought of. I mean, I guess the documentary will be about the song,
It would
but
have to be from the writer producer perspective on that one because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
their journey.
yeah.
But if you
I just
think about Madonna in her Truth or Dare movie, she
mm.
basically did it with the touring circuit. She let you
Oh
know
yeah,
what it was like behind the scenes in touring and what went into putting a show on in different cities, the headaches that she came up with and, the problems, the happy parts, I would love to see that for recording a project. And I thought that it would be a good vehicle to actually push a project instead of, oh, I guess you could kind of make it like a reality show, right? But just attach it to a musical project.
yeah. I mean, that's sort of kind of what I do with the
Yeah,
shows, with the
yeah,
concerts, you know. And I
yeah,
actually took inspiration from Madonna. So like the show is in color, but the behind the scenes is all black and white.
yeah.
Yeah. And so like with the things I have coming up this year, they're all going to be filmed, and the emphasis is going to be again on the process. So like that's why like with the I guess the performances or the concerts, the final product, it's only about 20 or 30 minutes because like I don't ask them for to do like a whole set, but it's because like how long it takes. Like when you don't have a track and you meeting with all these musicians, like figuring out how they gotta work together, you know,
Hmm.
how they're gonna get everything on one accord because sometimes the musicians have never seen each other before. And I
Hmm.
just find that fascinating. And then like the singer who say is untrained, how they like communicate what it is that they want, or
Hmm.
is all interesting to see.
Yeah. And what I was actually speaking of was more of an old school way of how people create music. They don't really create music the same way anymore. It's like
Yeah,
I'm at
not people
home.
aren't in the room anymore when the
No,
music is
no.
created.
It's
Yeah,
a bunch of files being passed electronically.
yeah,
Yeah. But even still, if you have a musician that's actually contributing to it, they're in their room, in their space, playing what they're playing according to what they hear or what they're inspired by, and they finish and then they pass it to the next. And someone will do the same thing and add upon what they hear and so on and so forth till it arrives at the artist. And it's like, well, do you like this? This is a track that was put together. And maybe five people are going down as, crediting as writers because that's who contributed to it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
love that.
Same. Like I wish we did have like more in studio footage of like the greats. You know, like I'm actually more so interested in the rehearsal footage of Aretha's Amazing Grace sessions than the final product because I already got that. You know, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
need I mean, the
yeah,
video's
yeah.
nice, but I want to hear like what other options, you know, did she have or ideas that she had for the songs because you know over the past decade or so just period you know people have been doing re-releasing like live albums but it's like the deluxe edition and what they're actually releasing is what was heard in the arena the concert hall on the night it was recorded And
Mm-hmm.
like, so you, of course, like, people go into the studio and do the overdubs, but they've been releasing like what was actually recorded that night. And I was
Yeah.
like, like to your point, oh, I actually like that better. Oh,
Yeah.
that choice is interesting. So it's like I love hearing that. Yeah.
And I'm going to challenge, I'm putting this out in the universe. I'm going to challenge an artist to actually try and create an album, not a single, an album the old fashioned way. Put musicians in a room, the artist, the vocal artist in the room, and you work it out live recording, and then you put it to track.
Okay.
Because they don't do that anymore. Back in the day, that was the standard practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what all my projects are, Uh the what you hear like in like the Shaka Khan concert, what
Yeah,
you heard, in the video is what they put into the mic that night.
yeah,
Because I was also like, the budget tight. We can't be doing no punch me in right there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm tired of
so
the punches. No punches. Leave the mistakes in because sometimes they sound great.
they do. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't have any more questions for you, but I do. I have a task for you.
Okay,
And
homework.
with this portal of mine, I normally get my guests to manifest something,
Okay,
put something in the universe.
okay.
It could be anything, but put something in the universe.
Put something in the universe. Um, Someone is going to invest in me.
Hmm, I like it.
Thank
I
you.
like it. Yeah,
Thank you.
I like it. Tell my people where they can find you, follow you, check out your work, support you,
All right. You
invest
can
in you.
I'm on YouTube and I'm here at Milik Kashad TV. My personal page is Milik Kashad, no TV, just Milik Kashad. And yeah, somebody told me to make a website, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that. I might, because I don't know what I would put. I don't know what I would put on it. But yeah, Milik Kashad TV for the music, and if you want just me, Milik Kashad, I'm on everything.
And I'm gonna dare do it because I can. Do you have a cash app where people can donate, contribute to your cause? Because what you do is not cheap.
Yeah, it's Malik Kashad. Yeah, Malik Kashad. But I mean, if people donate, that's cool. I don't get a lot of them. I don't expect to. But I do it because I love it, and I'm fortunate to have the means to do it. And I think to bring music education back and to affect people or touch people and impact people the way music has impacted me, it's invaluable. And I'm grateful for it because it is a part, even though it's a virtual community, it's digital. In some way, it helps me feel seen and accepted,
Yeah,
especially when my music taste were a source of, bullying and things of that
yeah.
nature growing.
You just made me think about something. I know I'm about to let you go, but I would like to hear your take on what is missing with arts being taken out of school. What are we lacking?
Taste. Taste. Just taste. But in the largest scheme of picture, I think it's connections.
Mm,
The ability to make musical connections. There was no reason why I feel like it was 2022 or 2023. But why did four girls come out with samples, full on samples of Kai Is My Neck and My Back? You know,
Yeah,
it's all this music in the world and y'all sampling the same music, the same materials, referencing the same things. And it's you know, school introduced me to a lot of things, but after that, I did the work and I said, okay, if I like this sound, who else was making sounds like this? Who, okay,
hmm
so if that, and then you see, you just branch out, you just branch out. And I think the ability for people to make connections, to produce new things or build upon what's already done instead of just reusing it is what's
yeah,
missing. And it's the reason why people say a lot of music sounds the same and a lot of voices sound the same today.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
Thank you.
Malik Kashad, I appreciate you for your time and your energy, brother. I thank you for your platform and the education and the inspiration. I
Oh,
think you are a true Renaissance man, and I hope you are doing what you're doing for a very long time.
thank you. As long as I can, I will do it. I got to get my girls, because my demographic, they older. So I got to get as many of them as I can. And that's what I'm working to do.
I
So
appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
likewise, thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye bye.